Wow, so Donald Trump is getting blocked again in the courts, and effectively what he wants to do is use the National Guard in Oregon. And in fact, we're talking about Portland, Oregon, which is my hometown. And hey, we got to show some Portland pride and push back against Trump. I know a lot of people feel frustrated by this whole situation, this whole Trumpy stuff, because you're like, why aren't people standing up? In fact, they are. And this is actually very important things because, again, Trump wants to use the military, multiple states, multiple cities. At the moment, we're talking about Portland, Oregon. First, Trump tried to use the Oregon National Guard. Both the mayor of Portland and the Oregon governor's like, no, you can't. Then the judge says, like, no, you can't. Put a restraining order on Trump. And then Trump's like, okay, fine. If I can't use the Oregon National Guard, then I'll use the California National Guard to send into Portland, Oregon. Gavin Newsom was already threatening to sue, push back. And then you're getting fights on this. And then you had Trump go, well, what about the Texas National Guard? And on Trump's side, I got Governor Abbott in my back pocket, so I'll use the Texas National Guard. So he keeps trying to go around courts, and now this is the headline right now: judge deals Trump new setback and plans to deploy Trump troops to Portland. And I want to go over these things with you. So it says U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut temporarily blocked the administration from sending any state's National Guard troops under federal control to Portland. So you can't use any state's National Guard. As Trump's going to try, well, I'll just use red states on blue states. He's looking for a fight, guys. I mean, you can see it happening again. Like, that's Trump's plan. I'm going to use another state's troops to send to whatever state that they want. The judge is saying no. Let's just read this together. A federal judge late Sunday night, right, dealt another blow to the Trump administration plans to send troops to Portland. Again, it's my hometown. Portland, stand up. After a weekend of heated confrontations between protesters and federal agents there, by temporarily blocking hundreds of California National Guard members as they were deploying to Oregon's biggest city over objections from Democratic governors in both states. And that's why I mentioned that Trump's now trying to use like the Texas National Guard. It's so crazy. U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut said the government appeared to be directly defying her previous temporary restraining order. And I think that was 14 days. So they're literally saying, I mean, the judge is like, why are you trying to go around me? From a day earlier, blocking the administration from sending Oregon's National Guard to the city by sending members of California's Guard. I mean, I'm curious if Texas is going to be named in this, because like I said, I heard that that Governor Abbott from Texas is trying to get his troops being either sent in. Immergut, the Trump appointee, right? So it matters because Trump gets mad at judges all the time. This is one of Trump's appointees. A Trump appointee confirmed to the bench in 2019, issued a new, broader order Sunday to prohibit the administration from sending any state's National Guard troops under federal control to Oregon. And I'm curious if Illinois is going to be involved with this, because I know Trump wants to do the National Guard to Illinois also, but he's getting pushback there, but not necessarily from a judge yet. This is Oregon, what we're talking about, so two different states. The decision came after California Governor Gavin Newsom joined a lawsuit filed by Oregon. So you got team up here, basically Oregon, California, as the Pentagon confirmed that Trump ordered about 200 National Guard members to be reassigned from California. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek said that later Sunday that about 100 had arrived. Wow. So they actually did come and were sent to a camp operated by Oregon Military Department, and about 100 were on the way. Interesting. So the judge is trying to block this. I mean, at least according to this, it sounds like the California troops are in Oregon and then more on the way. That's what I just read here. Trump's abuse of power won't stand, and this is coming from Newsom. Newsom says that. And then we have the Oregon Attorney General, Dan Rayfield, said earlier the state would expand its legal effort to include fighting deployments from out of state, accusing the president of being, quote, hell-bent on using the military absent the facts or authority to do so. It is up to us and the courts to hold him accountable. Hey, go Oregon, go Portland. And then you also have the pushback in Illinois, in Chicago, right? Late Sunday is all Sunday night. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said that the Guard in his state was informed that the Trump had ordered 400 members of the Texas National Guard to be sent to Illinois. Okay, so it's the Texas ones want to go to Illinois now. and other locations. Okay, Illinois, Oregon, other locations. Trump Saturday had ordered the activation of 300 National Guard troops to Chicago against the wishes of Pritzker, who has also said he would sue. And the troops here, guys, are basically getting a two different set of orders. We had the same exact situation in Korea. I keep mentioning, you guys, you can find my old videos on that. But basically, what ended up happening is many military commanders are just like, I'm not following the crazy president's orders. And that was in the Korean situation. It was President Yoon tried to do the martial law stuff. Many just slow walked it. Basically, like, it wasn't necessarily disobeying directly. They're just like, hey, I'm just going to take my troops to ramen because we have to do a pit stop, and my troops got to eat and don't necessarily have to follow orders. And I'm telling you guys, you don't have to do it. Don't follow illegal orders. Like, this is what the courts, and I understand the troops are going to feel like, well, I got President Trump saying one thing, and I got court saying one thing, I got governor saying other things. I mean, this is where I ask you your question is like, do you want to go into a locality where local officials are saying we don't need you, and also do you want to go in and go against your people, like our people? Like, this is not what the troops are for. We're here to support each other, guys. I'm sorry, it's very emotional time. I really understand. Trust me, guys. And again, Portland's my hometown, so I really do care about this stuff. And they don't want to see Americans fighting against Americans. I want to make that really clear. I do not want to see that at all. We must start now calling this what it is, Trump's invasion. And this is a statement from Governor in Illinois, Pritzker. It started with federal agents. It will soon include deploying federalized members of the Illinois National Guard against our wishes, and it will now involve sending in another state's military troops. Right? Literally, Trump's trying to get people to fight, right? He's trying to use Texas National Guard against, Oregon and Illinois, and Pritzker's calling it Trump's invasion. The Trump administration, which has said troops are needed, this is from Trump's point of view, I'm going to read all of this here, to protect ICE and customs enforcement facilities and agents conducting operations. So that's the argument that Trump is saying. We need to protect ICE. That's what Trump says. Had already asked the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 9th District to allow it to federalize, talking about 200 Oregon National Guard troops, while appeals makes its way through the courts. Oregon responded by asking the appeals court to keep the temporary restraining order in place. Again, that's 14 days. I really don't know how this is going to end, because I do know that troops were sent to Washington, D.C., and also in L.A. And, God, and right now I'm just speechless, because I just want cooler heads to prevail. I don't want Americans fighting Americans. And this is just my other initial reaction is this is just a big waste of time and money. If the local people are just like, this is not your jurisdiction. You can't just order troops whenever you want for any reason. The developments mark a significant escalation as the Trump administration presses ahead with its push to increase deportations and clashes between immigration authorities and angry residents over objections from states and setbacks in the courts. And we just talked about in a prior video, you can find this one, but the ICE people recently shot someone. This was in Chicago. They're claiming at the moment that this person was part of a convoy. That's the language. 10 cars boxed in is what they're claiming. And then therefore the ICE people had to start shooting. And I haven't seen any reports where any of the person that they shot had fired a weapon or anything. And then I guess in the charging documents it doesn't say anything even about a weapon. I know it's also frustrating. I'm trying to calm myself down here as I go through this with you guys. And I just want to say, if you care about this stuff, also you're not alone. This is in multiple states, and the local people, as I've been watching, and just an example in Oregon. Senator Wyden was putting out images of like, hey, we got like I think it was like a race, maybe a run was there, people out enjoying the weather, going to farmers markets and things like that. It was even just last week, I follow it, I follow college football. The University of Oregon had a big game against Penn State. I mean, people are still just enjoying their lives, and honestly, just what Trump is trying to do, he's trying to cause a fight. Recently ICE had the whole order on the apartment building in Illinois. If you guys saw that, children were being zip tied. I heard it was that wasn't children; it was also elderly people being held for a couple hours. That was according to Pritzker's, it was saying that. And Trump, their ICE people were like using chainsaws on doors. The whole thing is really disturbing. I'll be frank on this. I know ICE people are already arresting people, and these would be for any number of things. What it ends up being is like you have these masked people who just go out and try to instigate stuff, and then let's arrest you. I mean, that's ends up what it ends up being. I want to read through more of this stuff, and I'm trying to calm myself down as we go through this. Immigrant, in her decision late Saturday, wrote she expected a trial court to agree that the president exceeded his constitutional authority, right? We're going to fight in the courts, in mobilizing federal troops for local work and probably violated the 10th Amendment. Okay. Immigrant says Trump had not met the standard to call up troops and pointed to substantial evidence that the protests at the Portland ICE facility were not significantly violent. Okay, so there's no reason to say they're not significantly violent or disruptive in the days or even weeks, lead up to the president's directive. So there's just no problem. Now, obviously, then the Trump people is like, this is Stephen Miller. He's going to say, oh, no, this is a legal insurrection. That's according to Miller, but you all know who Miller is. In Portland, federal law enforcement on Saturday night forced protesters away from the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Facility. Officers in military-style attire, right? So it'd be the ICE people, I think, military-style attire with helmets and respirators, fired pepper balls into the crowd, and deployed canisters of chemical irritants, engulfing apartment buildings in white smoke and leaving protesters and passerbys coughing and crying. So it sounds like just people just living, if it is indeed hitting apartment buildings, I mean, it's like people just living in the areas are also being affected by this stuff, right? It says engulfing apartment buildings in white smoke. Tension spiked Saturday in Chicago, so both Portland and Chicago, when an armed agent shot and injured a female motorist. Trump officials said the agents fired, quote, defensive shots, that's their language, at a female motorist after officers' vehicles were rammed and boxed in by several drivers in southwest Chicago neighborhood. So there was a report that the ICE was saying, they charged them saying, I think they used the word convoy. They're claiming there were 10 cars that were, and here, so I'm not sure about the 10 cars were ramming the vehicles. I know how it's written. It sounds like that, but because I read the thing myself, I think there may only be a couple cars involved, but I don't know necessarily who's ramming who. I haven't seen video on this stuff myself. I've seen photos. The damage looks pretty light. I'm being frank with you guys, and you can find my last video on that, like literally like fender bender kind of stuff. And if that is indeed the case, and if the cars indeed boxed in, I don't think people are going very fast. And it was the ICE people who were shooting, and then I heard one agent discharge a weapon, I think it was 5 rounds or something like that. That's what I've heard. Separately, 6 people were arrested Saturday outside an ICE facility in Broadville, Illinois, just west of Chicago. And then just want to read the Trump people. They say, this is the Department of Homeland Security spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin characterized the shooting incident as a response to an ambush carried out by domestic terrorists. That's according to them. No one was trying to claim that there's bounties out there by cartels. That's what they claim. That's the first I've heard of this stuff. They're also saying, okay, they threw gas, rocks, bottles at law enforcement. Law enforcement alleged that a female motorist, later identified by federal officials as Miramar Martinez, was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. She was shot, right? So I don't think she fired at all. And then they're saying that she had a weapon, but then in the document itself, I heard that she didn't. So I'm not sure about the weapon. I just don't know. She was shot and wounded, but drove away from the scene and was later treated at the hospital. This stuff doesn't make any sense to me. I never read this one. Charging documents filed Sunday against Martinez and a man, Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz, did not mention a weapon belonging to either, right? So this is where it's unclear, this stuff. They're accused of using deadly weapons, their vehicles, to assault and impede federal officers. So they're trying to make the case that the cars were dangerous, I guess. So that's what's going on, guys. Sorry, I get emotional and stuff, and I try to control myself, but I mean, I just, again, I don't want people fighting each other. I'd like this all to tone it down. Trump's trying to basically get us all to fight, and let's not take the bait. I guess that's my message here. Let's not take the bait. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of what's going on, especially if you're in Portland and Chicago? How are local people feeling? But at the moment, the courts are blocking Trump. So thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you all in the next video.